So this next speaker that we have coming up is a great friend of mine. So last year I had the honor to speak at this exact conference, and it was amazing. All the energy, those folks in here, the family, the vibe. It was hard to know that people work together. It was such a what we experiencing today, very similarly, a very family-friendly environment. I really love to see that. So this year, one of our speakers by the name of Eli Bay will be joining us, but I want to share a little bit about why. He's a friend of mine, but why I recommended that he come out. Everyone here has a story, powerful story, things that we've experienced, that we went through. Not all the time do we have the opportunity to share them. Or do people ask us, about things that we've gone through, experienced, achievements, and hardships. I've had the pleasure of sitting down with this gentleman in some very vulnerable spaces. As a founder of the Giants Den, which is the leadership network for Black men. He's a member of the Giants Den, one of the speakers in the Giants Den. Learn more about his story, where he comes from. You see him showing up as a powerful husband, father, business owner, influential person in his community, employing people, and that's just the surface. Underneath that, there are some decisions that have to be made. There are some choices that have to be made. There's some connections that need to be made and also broken. And we had an opportunity to go and speak at one of the transitional facilities, which is also known as a halfway house, for a lot of folks who are transitioning back into the community. Most of them after 12, 17 years away. And they're in classes, they have 20 classes on their schedule, something like that. And I was facilitating some curriculum in that class, and I introduced him as a guest speaker. And at the end, one of the guys stood up. He was like, "Man, we got classes all day, but there's something about you." We're talking about Eli. It really makes me feel like I can do it. And to me, that spoke volumes. And I want to have him here with us today to share his story and his journey. Y'all can please help me to welcome Mr. Eli Bay.
I'm a handyman by trade, but I started off self-taught. So like the deputy director was saying, I had a toolbox. My toolbox that I started out with was small because I didn't know exactly what tools I needed. But I had the basics. I had a hammer. I had a couple of screwdrivers, Phillips, flatheads. I had a couple of, combination wrenches, the regular stuff. So when I would go out and do jobs, I would complete them. But I would always run into issues because I didn't have the proper tools. So every now and then, when I go to a job, I couldn't complete it, and I had to come back. And I'll go and I get the proper tool. I complete the job. Obviously, over time, I acquired a large toolbox, and I had a lot of tools. And I would do the job so efficiently, it was no job that I couldn't do. There's two ways you can get tools. The first way is you can get somebody that already knows, and you can tell you what tools to use. Or you can do like me, bump your head, find out what tools you need, and then go get them. But there's only one way to learn how to use those tools, and that's over time and experience. See, like a hammer, a lot of people might think it's an easy tool to use, but if you don't hold it right, you'll be doing more work, and the hammer will do less work. And it's about working smarter, not harder. So if you hold the hammer too close to the head, most of the weight is by the head. You'll be knocking that nail in forever. But if you draw your hand down a little bit and you let the momentum of the swing hit the head of the nail, couple of hits, the nail falls in. What I found out about being a handyman is that it's a lot similar to life. You need tools to be successful. And there's two ways you can get those tools. You can have somebody in your life that helps you understand life and gives you the principles and the rules. Or you could be like me, you don't have the right people, and you got to bump your head and figure it out. But the thing that still remains the same is to learn how to use those tools, you have to have experience. So I was born in Chicago, Illinois. I was raised in Long Beach, California. I'm the second of four boys. By the time my mom Had the third child, my grandfather on my dad's side gave her this long strip of leather that you use to sharpen knives with. And I'm gonna let you use your imagination on what she used it for. But he gave her that. He said, "You're gonna need this." And she was, because by the time we went to middle school, we will all be bigger than her. She was 4'11", but she was feisty because she was one of 13 children, and she grew up on the south side of Chicago. So she knew something about being rough and about being tough. So she's raising us, and she's doing it on her own. Now, she didn't intend to do it on her own, and I know she did it, but I understand how it ended up like that. See, after she had me, she moved from Chicago, Illinois to California. The only person out here was her sister. Now, she told my dad, "I'm leaving whether you come with me or not." And my dad chose to come. 2 years later, we had my little brother. So in my mind, I'm thinking, if he came all the way out of his comfort zone from a place that he was familiar with, his friends, his families, colleagues, to follow her, then 2 years later have a child, he intended to be in our lives. But it just didn't work out that way, though. The reason being, I think mainly because he had a troubled life. He lost his mom at 11. He lost his father. And growing up, he struggled with drug abuse. He struggled with just not having the proper tools. He didn't know really how to navigate, let alone how to be a father, a husband, and those other things that he was required to do. He just dived head in first, or dive first, head in. You know what I'm trying to say. But anyway, so he didn't make it. And because I know that about his history, I don't condemn him, but at the same time, I don't condone what he did. But it's life. And I remember the night when he did it. Or I would say I remember the night my mother told me it was going to happen. She sat all of us at the table and she said, "Look, I know y'all dad been kicked out before, but this time it's for good." Now we all instantly cried. My little brother, he was too young to really understand, so he didn't cry, but I know he kind of got the vibe of what was going on. And we cried because we liked my father. Yeah, he had a drug problem, but he wasn't belligerent. He didn't come in, beat on my mom. He didn't come in, beat on us. My mom was actually the disciplinarian. She had a special passion for whoopings. My dad was more like, he'll pull our ear, he'll pop us, but he wasn't into that. He was more the fun one. He took us to the park. He was the one that took us to the beach. He was the one that played frisbee with us, paddleball, all that stuff. So we had a good relationship with him. It wasn't no issues with him. It wasn't like he was this big bad wolf or this monster. So when he left, it hurt us. Even my older brother, which is not his actual biological father, he was hurt because we all built this relationship, and now he's gone. So now a tool is taken out of my toolbox, and that tool is the tool I needed to use to learn how to become a man. But it's not that bad though, because I got a big brother. Now, big brothers are kind of a good substitute. They're close in age, but they have that ability to be somebody that you can admire and look up to. So everything my brother was, I want to be. I wanted to be a rapper because he was rapping. I wanted to play football because he played football. I kind of even wanted to gangbang because he gangbang. And everything he did, it was right. He couldn't do no wrong. But eventually he get to high school and the gangbang activity kind of got out of control. Now he had a father in Minnesota and he told him that, you know what, let me take you out of this environment in California. Let me bring you out here. And my mom agreed, but they didn't consider the two other little boys. And I was mixed. I was kind of jealous for obvious reasons. He was getting able to get a chance to spend time with his father. He was going to be able to live with his father. Now, I didn't want to leave my mom, but what boy don't want to live with his father? And I didn't have that opportunity. I barely could spend a night because I don't know what he was doing. I didn't know where he was at. So I was jealous. But then I was kind of angry too, because now my next best chance of learning how to be a man is gone. Now I'm catapulted into the position of being the man. I got a little brother that's looking up to me, but I don't have the proper tools because before I got to the age to understand how to do it, the people that were supposed to teach me gone. But I dive right in. I help my mom. I help her pay bills. I help her with my little brother. I even learned how to cook. She put the chicken out, defrost it. I come in, get the cast iron skillet after school, put like about half amount of grease. We didn't deep fry. She taught us how to just fry with just enough amount of grease and then flip it over. And you knew it was cooked because the blood that would come out the chicken would stop and then start getting dark and get black. You know, it was cooked. Then I get the rice. This is for rice cookers. I get the pot, get the warm water, stir it up, pull off the excess starch, and then go ahead and cook the rice. So she taught me how to cook, and I learned. She taught me how to go pay bills at the electric company, or she taught me how to go to the pharmacy and pay the electric bill, or go to the owners and pay the rent. And I took my position very seriously, even though I didn't know what I was being called to do, because I love my mom, and I didn't want her to feel burdened by the fact that um, you have to give me the things that other kids have, because I knew she didn't have the tools to do it. She didn't have the help. She didn't have the assistance. She didn't have the financial assistance. She didn't have the support. It was work and home. So I was a good kid. I got straight A's. I was an honor roll student most of my educational career. But by the time I got to high school, it was more about social skills and less about academic skills. And this is kind of where like I get lost in the sauce at. So I didn't gangbang because my brother left. So the influence to do that was out of the way, which I could say I guess is a good thing to a certain extent. But now I don't have a true identity. Okay, so because even the gang member has an identity. He's the gang member. But I didn't have no identity. I wasn't the basketball player. I wasn't the football player. I wasn't the gang member. Who was I? And in this position of insecurity, what ends up happening is you introvert and you reverse and you hide behind the insecurities. And then I drug that from high school on into my young adult career, which led me in my 20s to spend most of my time going in and out of jail. Now, the whole time I'm going in and out of jail, it's like a game to me. I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. I don't have a job. So I don't have nothing to lose and nothing to live for. Remember those two things. I don't have anything to lose and I don't have anything to live for. So going to jail was nothing. It was like a break from smoking Newports and drinking 211s every day. So I was like, okay, I'll refresh myself up, go back out there and do it again. And I'm building street credibility because I'm not worried about the real credit that I need to build. But by the time I get to 23, I graduate to the penitentiary. Now, when I get to the penitentiary, it was a guy that came to me. He said, look, youngster, this place is going to be two things: a fool's paradise or a poor man's college. I didn't really understand what he meant by it, but I took it to heart. I'm like, okay, I hear you, OG. I start to see the fool's paradise aspect of it as I watched how most guys program. Everybody's running around, acting naive, either willingly or unwillingly, like the time they losing doesn't mean anything and they're going to get it back. They laughing, they joking, and practically living like they living on the streets. So I said, okay, fool's paradise. But then me, myself, being the person I am, I reverted back to my old program. Remember, I was a straight A student. I was an honor roll student. So I went straight to the books. Any books anybody would give me, I would devour them. Then I grew up with brothers and cousins. So all we did was work out, play sports, or wrestle. So I reverted back to working out. So I got on a good workout program. Then I come from a family of artists. So I didn't draw much on the street because, when you're on the street, you don't got time to sit down for 2 hours and draw pictures. You don't even want to, especially if you're not getting paid. But now I'm in the prison and I got all this time. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to draw, pass up some time. And I was good. So I was able to use that as a way to monetize and keep my commissary full. So, okay, so I'm an artist. I'm drawing pictures for people, keeping money on my books. I'm working out, building myself up physically, and I'm reading and I'm building myself up mentally. Now I'm starting to get an identity. I'm starting to become somebody. A couple of people look at me, they call me Karate Body or Bruce Leroy because of my physique. And I was like, okay, I'll take that. And they looked at how I programmed. And by program, I mean they looked at my routine and they seen I wasn't with the foolishness that I was using it as a poor man's college. So I would eventually parole, but now I'm paroling with a different level of ambition. I got an identity now. I'm physically fit now. My mind is a little bit sharp. I'm coming out a little bit more aggressive. So I come out and I get straight to it. I meet the woman that I'll soon marry. I get to a situation where I get a good job working in a refinery, training to do welding. And then I got a baby on the way. But I'm on parole and I don't quite understand all the stipulations. So in the process, I violate. And before my daughter turns 1, I'm back in. Now this time, I told you before, I was running around like this was a playground, not in there, but going back and forth. This time it hurt. It hurt because I had something to live for and something to lose now. These was two tools I required when I got out. I had a woman that was waiting on me to provide, and I was the main provider. I had a daughter, my first. I had a job. I was an employee. So I was a husband, I was an employee, and I was a father. And I was dibbling and dabbling into entrepreneurship. So I had responsibilities. So when I would wake up and look to my left and not see my wife, or look over here and not see my child, but see strangers that I didn't know, I thought I was in a living nightmare, like the Twilight Zone or something. I couldn't digest it. And it wasn't my first rodeo. This was not the first time I've been to jail. But this time was different because I had something. So I had to ask myself, okay, you got something to live for, you got something to lose, but that still wasn't enough to keep you out. What do you need? Up until that point, when I was going back and forth, the reason why I was so reckless was because I was playing this game of being a victim of a broken system. I didn't want to take any responsibility for my own brokenness. I was allowing the fact that it's the system situation, it's the system fault to make me not take any accountability. And because of that, I wasn't driving the car. I was in the back seat, and I was ending up wherever the driver was landing me at. So what I told myself is, I said, if you're going to get out of these situations, the tool that you're going to need to add to that toolbox is accountability. You can't keep playing this card because just because the system is broken doesn't take away from the fact that you're broken and you need to get fixed, because you can't change the system, but you can change you. So I get out and I'm a knucklehead, so I go back one more time. This time it was a shorter time. I had some learning to do. Like I said, some people get the tools from bumping their head. I was one of those. So I bumped my head again, but I kept fighting. I eventually would marry my wife. I would eventually go into another industry, which was machining. While I was doing machinist, I started to dibble and dabble in different books, learning about financial literacy. And then I was like, okay, I'm an entrepreneur. Let me go into this entrepreneur stuff. That's when I started the handyman business called Cleanup Man. Started doing that. Eventually got to the point where 3 years after working as a machinist, I left and said, hey, the business is growing. I need to tend to this. This is my future. This is not. Let me go on. So I went on, left my job, had a couple of more babies, did a lot of other significant things in my life. 2019, wrote a book. The book was detailing myself, my life, how I grew up, also how I built my business, all the skills I acquired along the way. Basically, what I'm trying to say is it took me to bump my head. And it's not necessarily that it has to take you, but it took me to bump my head. But at the end of the day, to be successful in life, you need tools. And a lot of you in here are tools for people. You are tools in their toolbox. Not even what you offer, just you as a person. Women are tools. My wife is one of the main tools. I call her my secret weapon. It's one of the main tools in my toolbox. Because somebody who can love you and be honest with you and can look you in your face and call you on your BS is what everybody needs. That tool that helped me was accountability. I don't know what the tool is to help any of you or any of the people that you need to help. But just understand that everybody needs that toolbox, and they need those tools. And you can give them some they'll get on their own. But one thing that they have to do is they have to go through the experiences of life to learn how to use those tools. I appreciate y'all for having me today. I love the conference. I love the idea. You're all champions in my eyes. I feel like my story is similar probably to a lot of people that you work with or will work with. And I just feel like keep doing the work that you're doing. I don't want to go too deep with that. Just keep doing the work that you're doing. I didn't have certain people like you in my life, but if I had, it probably would have excelled my growth. And so I'm trying to be that tool to people as well, so I can help them excel as well. So again, thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys.
think you know something.